is quite the act to follow. Hello, I am Dr. Alison Greco, and I am a clinical psychologist. And tonight, I'm here to talk to you about how to stop losing your keys, your place, and your temper. So, we live in this really hectic world. We are bombarded with stimuli. We look like this guy. And so what that does is that impacts our ability to remember things, to focus and concentrate, and it wrecks our ability to have control over our impulses. So I want to talk about a skill tonight called mindfulness. Probably you guys have heard this, but the focus here is on, on paying attention in a very specific way. It's on purpose, and it is without judgment, and this attention helps us with memory. So we often think about memory as being the thing that we can't remember, but it's actually what information didn't make it into the brain. So if it's not there, like where your keys are, then you can't recall it. So paying attention in a very specific way is putting that breadcrumb trail in your brain so that you can recall it later, so that it's not so much that you always have to put your keys in the same spot. It's that if you pay attention to where they are, you can pull that information back out. So one technique that we use in our lives constantly is Autopilot. And this is a really useful tool. We can drive where we're going and think about 14 other things. But what it will do is that it will have the impact of not being able to remember anything. And so just because you have a hammer doesn't mean that everything is a nail. So I want to do an exercise with y'all. So close your eyes, please, and focus just on your sense of hearing. Now you're probably going to notice the tendency to label what you're hearing and the tendency to judge what you're hearing, which would include my voice. So very often when I do this exercise, go ahead and open your eyes. I do this exercise with my clients. Obviously it's for much longer, but what I hear from them frequently is that they are now tuned into something that they've been ignoring, or that they could no longer pay attention to the thing that I had asked them. Very often they'll open their eyes and say, "What were you talking about?" And right now you guys are thinking, why is there a panda shooting a rainbow out of his mouth? And this is focus. So your focus would be on your hearing, or your focus would be on me, but really it's on that panda. And so what mindfulness is about is that when you're paying attention to what's going on, then you notice when you're no longer paying attention to the thing you're supposed to. So avoidance. Avoidance is when you are leaving the thing you're supposed to be doing, that report, that phone call, that person you don't want to deal with. And it allows you to focus on the thing that you don't want to deal with. You don't have to want to. And the way that it does this, mindfulness gives you two techniques, really, and those are curiosity and non-judgment, which gives you the distance that you need from that emotional experience that you want to avoid to help you be able to stick with something. And that's how we make change. So if you're losing your place, very often it's because you're avoiding something, and mindfulness can help you not do that. Finally, the tricky one, this is your temper. And this is that impulse control. So this is where, when you are really upset, what has happened is that something seems to have come out of the blue, and it has hit you over the head, and now suddenly you're really angry. So mindfulness gives you that distance again. You're paying attention, you realize what's going on in your body, and you can have the time to think about the short-term reward of punching that guy versus the long-term consequences of going to jail. And so mindfulness gives you that opportunity to pay attention and recognize that you're going to do something that you really don't want to do, like throw that glass of water at your boss. So this is an important skill, and one of the things that I wanted to bring up tonight is that in my practice, we have done this with some pretty important maladaptive behaviors. So I've worked with people with anxiety disorders and drug and alcohol addiction and all kinds of other bad things that they do to avoid, right? And mindfulness has been the way that we've made those changes. And so it's a skill, right? And how do we get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, 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 exactly. And so just like programming HTML5 and just like making jewelry, anything else, it requires practice. So I'm giving you homework. All of y'all tonight, when you go home, I'm going to assume that you're brushing your teeth. Yes. And so when you brush your teeth, what I'd like you to do is use all of your senses. This is an exercise that allows you to pay attention to what's going on in your body, and it allows you to pay attention to when your mind leaves the exercise of brushing your teeth, because generally this is not something we pay attention to. So I've got some books back here that I've used in my practice that have been really helpful to folks. I highly recommend them. And if you're interested in learning more about mindfulness, check them out. Have a good night. Thank you.